Hello, everyone, and welcome to Level Up Law. Thank you for joining us today. With Level Up Law, South Carolina Legal Services is leveling up your legal knowledge on different areas of law that we practice in. We're doing that every Tuesday at noon, so do check out our Facebook page to register and see the schedule. I'm Susan Ingles. I'm a senior staff attorney and consumer law unit head at South Carolina Legal Services, and I'll be the presenter of our event today. The subject is removing barriers to financial stability after COVID-19. And I'm happy to have as a special guest today, Virginia Ann Mullikin, who is an attorney and executive director of the South Carolina Free Clinic Association. Thanks for being here with us, Virginia Ann. I do want to note for our participants that this event is being recorded, and the recording and the slides will be available on our YouTube channel later this week, and any other materials included with the presentation today. We do ask that you keep in mind that this is general information. It's for the public. It's not legal advice. You should always consult with an attorney for any specific legal issues that you may have. During the presentation, you will be in listen-only mode, but you can put questions, and we invite you to put questions in the question box to the right of your screen. I can't answer specific legal advice type questions, but I certainly can give general information that may be helpful to the question that you do have. Again, thanks everyone for joining us, and let's get started. So we're going to be talking about removing barriers to financial stability after COVID-19. Some of what we'll be talking about does apply right now, but we're trying to look ahead and help folks plan so that they know what's coming that will be different from how things are right now and what they can do to remove those barriers. First, very quickly, I do want to let y'all know a little bit about what South Carolina Legal Services is. Our mission to provide civil legal services, not criminal, we're not criminal lawyers, to protect the rights and represent the interests of low-income South Carolinians so that all will have access to justice. Here's just some things that are sometimes a misconception about legal services. We are a private, nonprofit, statewide law firm. There's no application fee for us to represent you. We do not charge attorneys' fees. You can apply for our services by telephone or online, and keep in mind that it's not automatic. Sometimes people get confused because with the public defender in criminal cases, you're automatically entitled to an attorney. But for us, there are certain criteria that have to be met. Most specifically, you have to be income eligible. And that means 125% of the federal poverty guidelines. We are bound by the attorney-client confidentiality, just like any other attorney. We're not a government agency. And just again, I want to mention that this is not legal advice information in this presentation. Here's the areas of law that we practice in very quickly. We don't typically handle cases that are fee generating that other lawyers will do for you. So, for example, we don't handle personal injury cases or workers' comp and things like that. Here's the information for applying for our services, and you'll have that with the slides that you can access again on our YouTube channel. Okay, let's get started. Today I want to talk about removing barriers to financial stability. The current moment that we're in is the reason why we need to talk about that. We'll just discuss today 3 barriers to financial stability. There are so many barriers, But we wanted to touch on these three because we felt like they were the most important ones right now that so many of our clients are facing. Unmet medical needs, consumer debt and how it's handled on your credit report right now, and then the upcoming lifting of moratoriums on rent and mortgage payments. And then we'll talk about how to remove the barriers as we go along. A quick note about financial stability, you know, the question being, what exactly is financial stability? And of course, it's different things to different people. But mainly it's got, typically we think of these 5 components. You're able to meet all your bills within your basic needs. You do have money left over after you've met your basic needs so that you can save for an emergency. Now, some people say you should try to have an emergency fund of 3 to 6 months of expenses, and I think we all know now how important that is because so many people have suffered a loss of job or other loss of income during the COVID-19 quarantine and stay-at-home orders. And boy, don't we wish that we had 3 to 6 months of our monthly expenses saved up so we wouldn't be in quite the fearful mode that some people are in. The third component of financial stability is being able to pay off your debts, whether it be your house, maybe a car payment, or a credit card or something like that. You're able to save 2 to 5% of your income, and you're able to invest 2 to 5% of your income. Now, this is kind of what we think of in general as financial stability, but I would invite everyone that's joining us today to go to the website of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. That's www.consumerfinance.gov. And they have a calculator there that's called the Financial Wellbeing Calculator. It's real easy to use. It has 10 questions, and you can go through and figure out what your financial well-being or your feeling of financial well-being is right now. And then if you're in a position where you're really focused on improving your finances and your financial stability, I always tell people, take the test, see where you are, and then 6 months or a year from now, take it again and see if things are better. Okay, what's the current moment? Well, obviously, the current moment is COVID-19. And we are in what some call an isolation economy. So things are different. You know, you can't necessarily go to the doctor's office like you used to be able to do. So things are getting more difficult because people are staying in, and the places where they normally might go are closed to them anyway. That's true for us here at Legal Services. We're starting to have some reopening under very tight restrictions. And also, I just wanted to mention this phrase that I saw when thinking about what we would talk about today, and that's called your phygital experience. And I had never heard that before. It may be a new term, it may be an old one, but the idea is that we all have that experience with the physical brick and mortar type place that we go to for different services, whether it be the grocery store, the doctor, the courthouse, or anything like that. But there's also that digital component because for quite some time now, I think particularly since the mortgage crisis that we had, the foreclosure crisis, banks are being required to, and they want to anyway, to offer a lot more online digital experience for their customers. And I think the more people get into having that digital experience and preferring the digital experience, whether it be the online banking, texting with your doctor, now we have telemedicine. And so I think going forward, when we hopefully emerge from the crisis and where we are with it now, I think a lot of people, whether it be banks or medical providers or any other kind of entities, are going to be thinking about the customer experience, the physical, I want a face-to-face discussion with somebody, but also the digital, and how to really merge those two so that people have a really good experience. So here's the three kind of looming barriers to financial stability that we're going to talk about today. The first one is not really having any income, insurance, or money to pay for health care. Particularly important with getting prescriptions and treatment that you need on an ongoing basis. And also medical debt collection if you're needing that medical care, but you aren't able to pay for it after you've had it and you've got a medical bill that needs to be paid. The second barrier we'll talk about is payments that you have that are due on consumer debt, such as credit cards and car loans. And then finally, we'll talk about that barrier to financial stability that we know is coming, and that is that government and courts are lifting the moratoriums on rent and mortgage payments that we have had in place. But those are going to be being lifted in the coming days, and so we'll talk a little bit about that and how to deal with it. So the first barrier is the no income, no insurance, or money to pay for health care. And one way to consider removing that barrier is to consider what is offered at our free clinics, our free medical clinics in South Carolina. And so with me today is Virginia Ann Mullikin, who is the Executive Director of the South Carolina Free Clinic Association. And she's going to talk to us a little bit about what the free medical clinics are and how they can help during this time. So Virginia Ann, I'm going to turn it over to you, and I'm going to bring up y'all's website here so our viewers can see it.
All right. Thanks so much, Susie, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here today and just to share a little bit of information about our free clinics and what we do in South Carolina. The South Carolina Free Clinic Association is a nonprofit organization that has the members that are part of our organization are all medical or dental clinics that provide quality services to people for free, and the people are low income or do not have health insurance. Right now, we currently have 39 clinics in South Carolina across the state, and each one of them is its own independent clinic. So they are their own nonprofit organization. They each have a board that determines what services they are going to provide and what the eligibility requirements are to become a patient there. So our clinics do not accept health insurance like Medicaid or Medicare. We don't receive any federal funding. They mostly rely on donations, grants, and individual donations, grants from foundations, and money from other businesses, hospitals, United Ways, that kind of thing. So they all raise money to be able to operate. The way that clinics are able to provide so many services for free for people is because they combine paid staff and volunteer staff so that they are able to increase the value of the services. Last year, I think that our clinics raised all of them together. Cumulative total was about $17 million. They took that $17 million and then were able to provide over $110 million worth of services to patients for free. We annually serve about 42,000 individuals across South Carolina, and with that, again, they're able to provide many services, behavioral health surveillance pharmacies that are located within the clinic. But then, even if they don't have a licensed pharmacy there, the doctors will help the patients to be able to obtain the medications for free. This doesn't include opioids. None of our clinics will prescribe opioids, but they do prescribe medications for chronic diseases. And that right now is so very important with COVID, because anybody that has an underlying condition like high blood pressure or diabetes or some kind of chronic disease like that you need to be able to maintain, then it's necessary that you get the prescription medications and then take medications on a daily basis so that you can control the disease. And so that way COVID will not affect you as much as if it's out of control, then COVID is going to affect you much more. The medications that people have to take are astronomical. And if you do not have income to be able, if you're deciding between paying your rent or getting your medication or feeding your children, lots of times people will leave off their medication and they don't get that. So the clinics are extremely important in being able to provide that for people. How you become a patient with a free clinic, as I mentioned, each one has their own eligibility requirements. Some clinics only serve people who reside within their county where they are located. But other ones, we have several that will treat people even statewide. And so they do cross, of course, borders and that kind of thing. Most of our clinics, or the majority of them now, accept patients up to 200% of federal poverty level. And that will equate out to, if you are one person, that's a little over $25,000. Or if there's two people in the household, it's a little over $34,000. So it's a fair amount, but because we have so many more people that are in dire straits these days, it's a very tough situation. So the clinics can provide what they do at the very beginning. Once you become a patient, they would do a general screening of the patient and then be able to assess your situation to see whether or not you need medication or not. As Susie just mentioned a minute ago, things are a little different now that COVID has started, and our clinics have responded just like other private clinics as well. So we do screen. We are not doing COVID testing. We can point you in the right direction of where you can get the COVID testing, but they will ask questions as to whether or not you've traveled to another country, whether you've had a fever, those kinds of things. And then they also have set up extra precautions where your temperature would be taken when you come to the clinic. You would be given a mask, there's hand sanitizer, all of the providers at the clinic would also be wearing masks. But we also are utilizing telehealth a lot more these days, so that once you become a patient, then we can set up telehealth appointments between the providers and with the patient so that you can keep your medications refilled. The way that you go about finding a clinic is, if you look on our website right there, there is a little thing at the very top that says Find Clinics, and you would click on that, and then, I don't know if you can do that or not, Susie, but if you click onto that, then you would type into the little box right there your city or your county, and then the map to the right hand side would populate with all the little purple markers. Those are going to show you the free clinics that are the closest to your current location. And then if you click on the little purple marker, it will give you specific directions of how to get to the clinic, and then also all of the contact information. So you would just go to that. You could either call the clinic and ask them about their eligibility requirements and how you would go about finding a clinic and how to become a patient there, or they have emails as well so that you could do that. I would note that it's extremely important now. Most of our clinics they were organized and they were founded by doctors who realized that people who don't have health insurance usually will stay at home. They will stay away from a doctor's office or something like that until they get really sick, and then they go to the hospital to seek medical attention. And while hospitals are wonderful and they are perfect for emergency care, they are not the best place for someone who has a chronic condition like diabetes or hypertension or something like that, because they can't give consistent care over time. They treat you once and then they send you home. So many doctors have founded the free clinics because they realize that people that don't have the income resources or health insurance to be able to pay for health care, they lots of times don't go seek that health care. And so this way you can, and that's what the clinics are there for, to be able to help you, to be able to get your medication, and to be able to keep you out of the hospital. And right now, with all of the COVID patients that are in the hospital, it's much more important that you stay away from the hospital if at all possible. So I'll be glad to answer any questions. That's just a really quick overview of what the clinics are and how they can help during this particular time.
You guys and what you do at the free clinics around South Carolina are so crucial already, but particularly right now. And I thank you for sharing all that information. Your website is great. It's so easy to navigate with the little purple tabs, just, either typing in where you are or your zip code, or just clicking on the map for where you are makes it really, really easy. And so there's no charge, right, for the services or the prescriptions. And so things like hypertension and diabetes, I think you said, are some of the most important medical conditions that you all treat, especially now, because that medicine is so important as people go along through this period of the virus. And I mean, they're so vulnerable when they have chronic conditions like that. Now, so the telehealth, the kind of talking to the doctors in a video chat type situation, are most of the clinics able to do that, or is that just kind of now starting?
It is just, I mean, that is really, the progress of telehealth is really improving, and rapidly because of COVID, I think. But the majority of them now have the capability to do that. Many of our clinics have shipped, blood pressure cuffs and glucometers to their patient and have taught them how to use those machines, and then the provider can actually watch them, get the blood test results, and also the the blood pressure and that kind of thing, so that they feel very comfortable in refilling the prescription medications and that kind of thing. It's really hard though. I mean, there are certain sections of South Carolina where we don't have broadband connectivity, and so those are a little spotty, but we'll continue to work with people to be able to get health care for them. And I think our telephone number is on there too, but if they have questions about it, our office number is 803-713-5993, and we'll be able to, answer questions or point them in the right direction of finding a clinic.
Okay, great. And that's scfreeclinics.org. Well, here is one question, and that is, the broadband, lack of access, I guess, with broadband is a challenge. What other challenges are the clinics facing in trying to remove these barriers for people who need health care and prescriptions but aren't able to pay for it?
Well, right at the very moment, because we rely on community donations and that kind of thing, and because there is such an economic downturn across the state, funds are always in need for, I think for any nonprofit, I think we always need additional funds. So additional resources would be very helpful to any of the clinics, because they do raise their funds to be able to serve the people. We have been very fortunate in receiving many masks, for the sterile masks for the providers and for our patients too. Blue Cross Blue Shield has provided between 25 and 50,000 masks, I think, so far to our clinics. And so that has been very helpful, because that, cuts on the cost of what they have to buy and then to be able to provide for their patients. So
that's wonderful to get those kind of equipment. Even that type is so important, especially those masks. And as we know, our numbers are up in South Carolina, and the importance of everyone wearing those masks has definitely been heightened for sure. So in any of your clinics accept like Medicare or Medicaid or any of that?
There's only one that I know of that accepts Medicare, but most of them do not accept. They don't do all the administrative billing and all that kind of thing for because it takes away really from patient care. They'd rather spend their time, serving the patients rather than billing for those funds. So they don't. Yeah. There's only one.
So great, and so it truly is for people who have no resources to get that health care and treatment and prescriptions. So thanks so much. I think that's the only question so far, but Virginia Ann, if you could stick with us, and then we'll see if at the end of our presentation there's any other questions. If you can stick around, we'd appreciate it.
We will. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Let's see here. Get back. Okay. So that was really great information. I wanted to also mention, when it comes to not being able to pay for a hospital stay, when you need that treatment, a procedure, or some sort of urgent care, I just wanted to mention that hospitals do have a responsibility, most of them, to sponsor patients who are at the poverty guidelines. We sometimes refer to that as, I don't refer to it as that, but some people call it charity care, because that's actually what it's called in the law. And I just always say, don't dwell on what it's called, because a lot of people, say, oh, I don't want to take any charity. But it's a responsibility of hospitals to do that. So you should always ask if that's available if you're in a situation where you've gotten a bill from a hospital stay and you're not able to pay it. One of the things that people often don't realize is that when they've had a bill like that, their state tax refund can be offset to pay it. And so that's something that you need to think about with financial stability, because so many people rely on getting that tax refund to get caught up on rent, or to get caught up on their car payment, or to buy some, necessary appliance that they need, like an air conditioner or something of that nature. And then part of their refund gets taken and they're surprised. And there's a procedure for that. And we have information about that on our legal help resources that will show at the end of this presentation. So stay tuned to look out for that, so that you can get that information about how that works. Okay, the next barrier we're going to talk about is consumer debt, like credit cards, car loans, and so forth, other personal loans, payday loans, things like that. A lot of states have put a moratorium on debt collection lawsuits, kind of like there have been moratoriums on evictions. Unfortunately, South Carolina was not one of those, although we did have the moratorium on evictions for a while there, on evictions, going forward that like were already filed and that sort of thing. but we don't have that moratorium on debt collection. So I did want to talk a little bit about how to remove that barrier. The first thing to mention is bankruptcy. A lot of people just immediately when they're in a difficult financial situation, like so many people are right now, and the bills are mounting and the credit card people are calling, and maybe you're behind on your mortgage or your rent, and there are many creditors out there, lenders, local, regional type lenders, who will say, well, you're just going to have to file bankruptcy. And we always say, bankruptcy is a last resort when you're in trouble with not being able to keep up with debt payments. It's like the nuclear option of debt collection. And you should always consult with an attorney. There's a lot of services out there that will help you to file bankruptcy for yourself, to do it, without a lawyer. And in fact, our bankruptcy court here in South Carolina does have wonderful resources on their website to help you with filing your own bankruptcy. However, there are so many just tedious issues that come up in a bankruptcy about any kind of debt that you might have, anything from a credit card debt to a tax debt. There's periods of time that after which a debt like an IRS debt, for example, can be discharged in a bankruptcy. But we so often see people filing bankruptcy on their own, thinking that they can discharge a tax debt or something they owe to the DMV or rent or child support or things like that. And all of those things really need to be reviewed for your personal situation. They really just can't be standardized in the way that so many things are standardized online today. So we always recommend that you get an attorney when it comes to bankruptcy, just for a consultation. Most bankruptcy attorneys will give you a free consultation and go over your situation with you and kind of see what you need to do. But aside from my suggestion to always consult with an attorney but you're thinking of bankruptcy as being the only thing that you can do, right now, you can ask creditors for an accommodation. And many of them are giving those accommodations. We have a list here on this slide of what those types of accommodations can be. It might be deferring a payment, allowing a partial payment, doing a forbearance of past due amounts, which is what people commonly refer to as like putting it on the end of the loan. Sometimes you can modify your loan or modify your contract, and every creditor has some kind of relief or assistance that they can give you. You just have to ask for it. Sometimes when we have these barriers in front of us, the fear can be overwhelming. But if you can put aside that fear and really address the options that you have to remove that barrier and really be on the road to ultimate financial stability, you should definitely do that. Now, I wanted to mention that under the CARES Act, which is the new law that has been so helpful to so many, providing relief during this COVID-19 time, there is a provision that if you do come to an agreement with a creditor for some kind of accommodation, and that agreement is kept by you, then they must provide information to the credit reporting agencies that shows that your account is current as of that agreement, and they have to maintain that status. So, for example, if you are current and you make an accommodation because you know you're not going to be able to pay, then they can't then report that you're past due if you have adhered to the agreement that you made with them. Now, if your debt is already showing on your credit report as being delinquent, like 30 days past due or something like that, they can leave it at that status, but they can't let that status get worse. So if you were 30 days past due, you're going to stay 30 days past due until the agreement is completed. So I think that's some really important information, because people are always worried about that credit report, and it is very important. So keep in mind that if you're making some kind of alternate arrangement with a creditor, that this will help you out from the standpoint of reporting it on your credit. Okay. The third barrier, really, and the last one that we'll talk about today, is the upcoming lifting of moratoriums on rent and mortgage payments. So the CARES Act moratorium on eviction ends July 25th. And of course, ironically, that's when the $600 monthly payments on unemployment will no longer be paid after July 25th. So that's a big date. That is this coming Saturday. So if you haven't already been thinking about it, you definitely need to start thinking about it now, because that's going to be a big date. There is an eviction tsunami coming. Now, if you, well, we'll talk about how to remove that barrier in just a moment. I wanted to also mention that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac did extend their moratorium. I think it was originally June, maybe 17th, but they've extended their moratorium on mortgage foreclosures until August 31st. So, you know, we have mortgage foreclosure cases here at South Carolina Legal Services that were, you know, pending and about to go forward, and a moratorium was put on those. And so we have a lot of thankful homeowners for that, so that they can figure out what their barriers are to getting back to paying that mortgage, and try to remove those barriers. They really need to be putting aside any money that you are getting, and just, you know, try to reduce those monthly expenses to the greatest degree that you can, and be putting that money aside. Okay, here's how to remove that barrier. So the CARES Act requires that tenants in covered properties, and we define that here, it's a property that's participating in a federal housing program, or that has a mortgage owned by Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac. Those tenants are entitled to 30 days notice before they can be evicted for non-payment of rent. So when that moratorium is lifted on the 25th, you'll still be entitled to that 30-day notice after that. So like a previous notice that may have been sent in July that shouldn't have been during that moratorium period, that wouldn't count. It has to be after the moratorium is lifted. There are also many agencies who are providing assistance to folks for rent and other needs, and we do have lists of those available on our website, and that will be included in the notes when this presentation is posted to YouTube. And those can be really, really helpful. And I just want to point out that that's something certainly that South Carolina Legal Services can help with if you're experiencing eviction or mortgage foreclosure. Those are the kind of cases that we handle, and particularly with evictions right now, we're helping a lot of people try to get through that process. And so I encourage folks to definitely apply for assistance with that. Also with mortgages, you can still apply for a modification with your lender. Those are still out there, especially with those government backed loans that are in a moratorium right now. So I definitely encourage people to remove that barrier of that upcoming lifting of the moratorium by talking to your lender and seeing if something can be done. But if you get to that point where, you know, you're at the end of your rope, nothing is going to help, your lender isn't willing to modify your loan, and you're on the verge of mortgage foreclosure, or maybe you've even been served with mortgage foreclosure, you definitely should apply to legal services for our assistance with that. Again, bankruptcy, a last resort. Be sure to consult with an attorney when it comes to choosing that route. We can always refer you to an appropriate agency as well to assist you with modification. Of course, we can help with that as well, but there are many good groups out there who can help with the modification as well as that rental assistance. We can also provide consultation on whether a bankruptcy will really help you. We do handle bankruptcies as well. And so I encourage you, if you don't have an attorney, a local attorney that you can talk to, you certainly can apply for our assistance with that. And those are our 3 barriers to be removed. Here is our contact information at South Carolina Legal Services. We have a telephone intake service, and here is that toll-free number. Operators are always standing by. We have intake specialists who will take down your information and determine your eligibility and so forth. They are open Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. So if that's, obviously they're open right now. If later on you're watching this video and it's between the hours of 9 and 6 Monday through Friday, they'll be standing by waiting for folks to call in and apply for our services. You can also apply online at our intake line that is shown here on this last screen, lawhelp.org/sc/online-intake. And then just the general resources for the public. Our Law Help website in general has quite a bit of information on these topics, on disaster relief. We have a great cadre, I would say, of other informational resources about COVID-19, anywhere from unemployment to taxes to housing, public benefits. We have covered it all, and it's there waiting for you to access. So please don't hesitate to access that legal information. We also have online classrooms in some of these subjects, one of which applies to housing. We have an online classroom about getting your landlord to make repairs and what that process is like. Our basic general website to see about legal services and kind of what we're all about, what we're doing, look on our calendar and see when upcoming events like this are happening, is sclegal.org, and you can go there, and we have social media that has a lot of good information. You can click right there from our webpage onto Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and of course our YouTube channel, where this presentation will be posted, along with all the other Level Up Law events that we have already had and the ones that we will have in the future. I don't see any more questions. I do invite folks to ask any questions at this time before we sign off. And while we're waiting for that, I do want to thank you, Virginia Ann Mullikin, Executive Director of the South Carolina Free Clinic Association, a wonderful organization of whom members are all the free clinics all over South Carolina. It's just a great organization, and Virginia Ann, your information today was so helpful, and what you guys do in the free clinics around South Carolina is just so important to what's going on right now, and we thank you and them for doing that. And of course, I want to thank everyone who participated in the event today and who may be watching this later on our YouTube channel. Thank you for watching, and I want to alert you that next week on Tuesday at noon, we will have attorney Cable Pogue from our Orangeburg office, and he will be talking about grandparent adoption, which with school getting ready to start, whether it's online or in person, this is an issue that quite often comes up with grandparents who may have their grandchildren living with them or about to live with them, and they need to pursue that grandparent adoption. So definitely stay tuned for that information. You can register on our Facebook page or from our website, and I invite everyone to do that and share this information with anyone you know that you think it might be of help to. Okay, well, we're going to sign off, and thanks everyone again, and be sure to contact South Carolina Legal Services if you need any assistance. And you can seek a presentation from us by going to our website, but also you can email us, especially for a rural clinic that you might want. Even though we can't really do them in person right now, we can definitely do them like we're doing this one. And if you want to make that request, you just do it by email to ruralclinics@sclegal.org. Thanks for watching, everyone, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you.
Thanks, Virginia Ann.